Ladies and gentlemen, as Director of UNAOC, I want to welcome you to today's session on social inclusion and migration, developments for the post-2015 agenda. We are indeed grateful today to have with us one of the originators of the United Nations Alliance of Civilization, José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero, the former president of the government of Spain. Today what we will do is have the opportunity for President Zapatero, the High Representative, and the permanent representative of Turkey to speak on this topic, and then we will engage in an interactive conversation with those of you who have issues you want to raise or questions that you want to offer. Before we begin, a couple of quick words about the work of the Alliance of Civilizations on this important topic that we're addressing today. The Alliance's origins with the high-level group pointed out the importance of migration and social inclusion as part of what was necessary to build peaceful societies. Fortunately, groups like the Club of Madrid have continued to push this agenda, and through their Shared Societies project have continued to show us the way on how we can do a better job of building inclusive societies. Here at the Alliance, one of the ways in which we operate on the issue of migration and social inclusion is through one of our projects called Plural Plus. It's a video competition for young people. The criteria for the selection of the winners has to do with their ability to provide us with visions of how to better provide for inclusion and how to better promote tolerance between groups. Today you'll have the opportunity to see one of the winning videos. All of these videos are 5 minutes in length or shorter. They're all done by young people under the age of 25. And today you will get the opportunity to see one of these winners. In this case, it's one called My Dad the Musician, in which a young boy from Georgia of Armenian origin moves to the Czech Republic. And while learning how to live in his new society, he also learns, following his father's example, of how the cultural links to his past help him as he develops his ability to work in his new adopted society. The result is a useful instruction for all of us in how to build shared, inclusive societies. Jordy?
Můj táta mi říkal, že 5 notových linek je jako 5 kontinentů, mezi kterými migrují lidé. Houslový klíč je klikatá cesta mezi nimi. Táta je původem Armén, ale od malička vyrůstal v Gruzii. Tam potkal moji maminku a vzal si ji za ženu. Musel se stát asi něco hodně zlého, protože brzy opustili rodinu i přátelé. A i s mými 2 staršími bratry uprchli do České republiky. A tam jsem přišel na svět i já. Prvních 5 let svého života jsem strávil v uprchlických táborech. Nakonec jsme všichni dostali azyl a konečně jsme se mohli přestěhovat do Prahy. Táta říká, že není větší štěstí, než když jeho syn hraje na stejný hudební nástroj jako on. Chtěl bych, abych uměl hrát na akordeon stejně dobře, a proto jezdím každé pondělí do základní umělecké školy. Jednou prý budu nejlepší akordeonista, ale to mě ještě čeká dlouhá cesta.
Pozor, ti to vyjde, to je na 3, že jo? Na akordeon přijde zahrát Tigran Manukyan, skladbičku Skertes Velox.
Někdy mám trochu trému vystupovat před lidmi, ale stejně bych chtěl hrát v kapele, jako hraje táta v té své. Jmenuji se All Star Refugee Band. Zpěvačka pochází z Číny, kytarista je Kurt ze Sýrie a klarinetista je ze Švýcarska. Všichni mluví česky, ale i díky hudbě nezapomínají na své kořeny. Ani já nezapomínám. Doma totiž často mluvíme arménsky. Táta říká, že nikdy nesmíme zapomenout na místa, odkud pocházíme, i když jsou daleko od našeho domova. Země se totiž skládá z 5 kontinentů, mezi kterými migrují lidé. Houslový klíč je cesta mezi nimi a hudba spojuje svět.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is just one example of the types of videos that young people, some as young as 9 and 10 years old, have provided to the UN Alliance of Civilizations to illustrate these issues, the ability to improve levels of tolerance, the ability to improve levels of inclusion. And it's the type of programming that has become increasingly important for us. And now, with that, let me turn the chair over and the microphone, more importantly, to His Excellency José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero, the former President of the Government of Spain, to address us on this critical issue. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me, I got the agenda mixed up. Before our guest speaks, the High Representative of the United Nations Alliance of Civilization, His Excellency Nasser Abdul Aziz Al Nasser, will address you.
Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, Mr. José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero, former President of the Government of Spain, it's a great pleasure to have you with us today. Your Excellency, Ambassador Roman Oyarzin, the Permanent Representative of Spain, Your Excellency, Ambassador Halid Shevik, the Permanent Representative of Turkey, Excellencies, representatives of the media and civil society, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to welcome President Zapatero, who joined us today in his capacity as a member of the Club of Madrid. As many of you know, President Zapatero is one of the co-founders of the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations. He knows better than most that since its creation, that migration has steadfastly remained one of the 4 pillars that form the base of alliance activities. At its founding, a high-level group convened to decide the type of work the Alliance of Civilizations would do. On the issue of migration, they noted that populations would either view increased diversity as a source of strength or as a threat. Migration is undoubtedly one of the major global issues of the 21st 21st century, the United Nations continues to make progress, agreeing on many aspects related to international migration and development, and the protection of migrants, while raising international awareness about the importance of this issue. This past October, a high-level dialogue was convened here at the UN, putting international migration at center stage. UN member states, joined by civil society representatives, called for integration migration into the post-2015 agenda. I was very pleased to contribute to that dialogue. In that context, I would like to point out that as the global community debates a post-2015 agenda, the case for including migration is both stronger and more imperative than ever before. A collaborative approach to migration and development is vital, let alone urgent. The reason is clear. Evidence clearly shows that migration contributes significantly to development in both the countries of origin and the destination. Remittance constitute a significant share of GDP and represent the largest source of foreign currency earnings in many countries. Hence, post-2015 UN Development Agenda could promote better policies in a range of areas that could lead to development gains in the hundreds of billions of dollars. But we still need to do more to address migration-related issues. At the heart of migration are human beings with human rights. The term migrant describes that they do, but not who they are. We have all too frequently seen in recent years the fear of the other has only become more acute. Migrants are often targets of racism, xenophobia, and intolerance. Increased diversity should be viewed as strength, not a problem. To achieve this social inclusion is key. For me personally, and for us as a UN organization, the issue of migration has always been first and foremost about human rights. Think for a moment about the personal sacrifice made, the drive and willpower needed when someone decides to leave his or her home country and settle somewhere else. In spite of the challenges migrants face in their transitions, they still enhance their new community in cultural, economic, and other important ways. We saw an example of these moments ago in Plural Plus Video, a UNAOC's project featuring the young boy and his father, the musician. It was quickly apparent how the simple act of playing music together impacted fellow migrants. Equally importantly, the boys' continued practices of the accordion showed potential for the music to profoundly affect other parts of society in the future. Since our mission is to facilitate global understanding, we also help journalists to tell the stories of migrants in a constructive manner. At the moment, UNAOC is also working to create a glossary of media-friendly terms related to migration. Our goal is to help journalists eliminate public misconceptions about migration while advancing better understanding of the issue. In 2013, we held 2 seminars for journalists and migration experts in France and in Switzerland, resulted in recommendations to improve journalist coverage of migration. All these recommendations were shared via a significant social media campaign, #CoveringMigration, reaching over 5 million people. Another project in partnership with the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs involved the creation of a short film addressing the Italian media's influence on public debates about migration. Ladies and gentlemen, migration is a driving force for healthy economic development. With this in mind, UNAOC is working with the CRT Foundation in Italy and the Italian government to train young businessmen and women looking to launch businesses that add social value in their hometowns. An inclusive society must encourage all its members to prosper. Subsequently, the global economy will follow suit. This leads directly to peace and stability among nations. The desire to achieve complete social inclusion for all must become deeply ingrained in our hearts and supported by political decision to have it evidence in our action. The Alliance of Civilizations strongly believes that as long as migration and social inclusion appear prominently on the post-2015 development agenda, the right kind of dialogue will follow. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen and friends, thank you, and I know you must be eager to hear His Excellency President José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero. Sir, you have the floor.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. Good morning. At the outset, may I say that I'm extraordinarily pleased to come back here to the United Nations. For me, this is the international institution that is the most important, and where we must place our hopes, our ambition, and our dreams. I wish to thank in particular the High Representative of the United Nations for his statement on behalf of the Alliance of Civilizations. As you can imagine, I am quite pleased as well to speak here with the High Representative of the Alliance of Civilizations. Well, we recall that here, I was remembering the moment when, in 2004, in the General Assembly, I proposed creating an alliance of civilizations. And this was together with Turkey as a co-sponsor, with my good friend, the Prime Minister Erdogan. And we worked diligently to strengthen this. This is a country from the east and from the west, from the Middle East, from the west. Of course, both are close to the south and the north at the same time. We have characteristics that enable us to understand each other. And Turkey and Spain, Spain and Turkey, it seemed natural that they would work together. In this effort, I'm very pleased that Qatar, too, is at the forefront of this alliance of civilizations. Qatar is one of the great emerging countries. Well, more than emerging, in fact. And this can strengthen the alliance of civilizations. We always have to go back to the basic principles. The alliance of civilizations was devised for peace. For peace. peace is the major undertaking in the history of humanity. And we have dialogue, understanding, knowledge. This is at the basis of peace and recognition. With this alliance of civilizations, our goal in setting this out was to recognize our diversities and recognize each other in that, in religions, different cultures of civilizations. And this diversity must serve cooperation and not serve conflict. This diversity must serve unity rather than isolation. This diversity must be at the service of common values for human beings. We have identified 4 areas. And we've selected those because those were the 4 areas that we believed we could address these values, civic values. These help foster understanding and communication, education, training, the media, migration and migrations. I'll make a brief reference to the role of migration in the Alliance of Civilizations. A country, a culture, an identity. Over time, this is judged over time and in history on the basis of how this is seen by others. And how people coming from the other places outside of their place of origin are respected and viewed. There are many indicators, classifications, rankings of countries. Of course, per capita income is one. The Human Development Index is another, of course. But there is another one, and in the long term, in marking history, this has particular relevance. And that is how to have a policy for inclusion and adaptation in the face of these migratory flows. We live in a world of migration, affected by migration, in the north, in the south, from south to north, from south to south, from east to west, west to east. And clearly, there are economic issues arising from this, security issues, social issues. But there is one priority area that must take foremost importance, and that is respect for human rights. And let us not forget this. The United Nations was born for peace and human rights. And so the Alliance of Civilizations, the Club of Madrid, that I'm representing here, as you know, it's a group of former presidents and representatives of government, and it endeavors for social inclusion, particularly in migratory movements, addressing that. I think this alliance of civilizations must be demanding towards nations with the friends of the alliance. We must set out indices, barometers, so to speak, to look at how we behave towards migrants in each and every country. We need to set out indicators, inclusion indicators. I repeat, indicators for inclusion, for tolerance. And there are meetings for participation in every country based on the national plans of the alliance. There's participation of minorities, religious ones, but also cultural, ethnic minorities in each country. I believe that is the task before us. The Alliance of Civilizations, the Club of Madrid, and these countries that have been at the forefront of this movement, this new step of the United Nations, we must ensure that the post-2015 development agenda can reflect this more strongly. This call, this mandate for social inclusion, for respect of immigrants and their human rights. And we have the moral fortitude for this. There are reasons that endorse this effort that we must make. We have to start by setting the example. And from that point, Europe has many things to improve in its migration policy. When I was head of government, I had a policy for integration and respect for the rights of migrants. This was, their beliefs needed to be respected. They needed to have rights for assistance to health, for example, beyond the role that they played. This is a major task, but I do insist. This is in favor of peace and of human rights. Once again, time and again, we say that all of us, we are different colors, different skin colors, all of the different skin colors in humanity, all of us, we are from different religions in humanity. We all have a bit of the Western world and the Eastern world. We are all from the North and the South. There is no color that takes precedence over another, or a history that takes priority over another, or a predominant culture. And humanity must work in that direction. And the more we do this, the more we reduce wars over religion, entity, then this will continue to be enhanced. Xenophobia, racial hatred, discrimination, all of these will be exacerbated. I am not blaming anyone here. I'm not pointing the finger. but I think xenophobia has a great part to play. This is radically incompatible with a human vision of civilization. Every day, somewhere in the world, xenophobia raises its head. And I hope that this alliance of civilizations can be strengthened every day, have more voice, more visibility in the post-2015 development agenda and in everyday life. And I thank Turkey and Qatar and all of us who believe in this alliance of civilizations. We are all human beings here. We are dignified and all equal. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Michelle Klein-Solomon, the New York representative for the International Organization of Migration. Michelle?
Thank you very much, Matthew. President Zapatero, High Representative El Nasser, ambassadors, colleagues, and friends. It is a distinct honor and pleasure to be here today on behalf of the International Organization for Migration, the principal intergovernmental organization on migration issues globally, and a key partner from its inception to the Alliance of Civilizations on the migration pillar of its work, including on that fantastic youth video competition that we had the honor to see here today, Plural Plus. We value enormously our collaboration with the Alliance of Civilizations, and you can count on that continuing. I'd like to make 3 points today to add to our discussion about the importance of migration and social inclusion in the 2015 development context. First, on the relevance of migration to all 3 pillars of sustainable development. Second, to the necessity of social inclusion to realize that potential of migration for development. And third, how? Because we're moving into the how phase now on the post-2015 development agenda, and I know the agenda is crowded, and to find voice, we need to focus on how. Let me come back to each of those 3 points very briefly. First, on the relevance of migration to sustainable development. As Ben said already by our first 2 speakers, but let me put it into concrete numbers. 1 in 7 people on the planet today is a migrant. 232 million international migrants, another 740 million internal migrants in the world. That's 1 billion out of 7 billion. But that number is just a small fraction of the number of people who are actually affected by migration. Spouses, children, parents, family members, community members in countries of origin and in countries of destination. It's the rare society today that is not affected by migration profoundly. What about the nature of those impacts? Well, the financial impacts garner a lot of attention. In 2012 alone, more than $400 billion were remitted through official channels just to developing countries by migrants. That is clearly an underestimate of the financial contributions that migrants make to their countries of origin, because as we know, so much of the money that migrants send home come through informal, unofficial channels. And so much of that money flows in both directions. It's not just developing countries that are affected by remittances, it's developed countries as well. But the financial impacts are only a tiny percentage of the overall impact. Migrants transfer skills, expertise, innovation, entrepreneurship, investment, ideas. They are the transmitters of so much in building bridges between societies that have a very direct impact on social and economic development. And those impacts affect the countries and households at home and very much so in the countries of destination, whether the migrants are workers in the low-skilled area of construction or home health care, or in the high-skilled engineers, doctors, the people who generate innovation and make societies and economies competitive. So it's fundamental to see that migrants' impact and migration impact on all aspects of social, environmental, and economic. And I'm not going to get into the environmental for the purposes of the discussion. But my second point is that for that impact to be positive, it depends fundamentally on what was just said by President Zapatero. The rights and well-being of migrants must be protected and respected. We cannot have second classes of citizens and people in this world. The quality of migration is the question, not the quantity, but the quality. And we need to be working toward a system in which migration takes place through safe, legal, and protected channels, where migrants are celebrated, not feared or criminalized, and where their contributions can be a source of enrichment for all of us in destination and origin countries. What does that mean concretely? We need to wipe out the abuse and exploitation that takes place at the hands of traffickers and smugglers. We need to reduce the exorbitant fees that are paid by migrants to unscrupulous recruiters and remittance transfer companies. We need to work with employers to make sure that they pay equitable wages and not substandard wages to migrants in substandard working conditions. Migrant skills need to be recognized across borders, and they need to be able to take home with them the social benefits that they have accrued in their countries of work and destination. This is equally relevant in the context of considering disaster risk reduction, peacemaking, and peace building as building inclusive societies, as the President just said. And absolutely essential to that is eviscerating, and let me underline what he just said, the xenophobia, discrimination, and racism that is too prevalent today. My final point, how to integrate migration into this new post-2015 development agenda, because in many respects, the inclusion of migrants and migration will be a litmus test to whether we have a truly universal agenda that is relevant for all peoples in all societies, regardless of their status. We need to look at, first and foremost, and very concretely, a renewed global partnership for development that includes migration. It's clear today, is based on the high-level dialogue that the High Representative referred to that took place in the General Assembly in October last year, that there's a new willingness of countries around the world to come together and work together to make migration a positive experience. Let's make that a reality. Let's talk about a partnership that aims to facilitate migration that's safe and enriching for migrants, operates under the rule of law, consistent with international standards, and is less costly in human, social, and financial terms. That would truly make migration beneficial for all. But that's not enough. That's the most important, but that's not enough. The second point under this is that we need to make sure that migrants have equitable access to all the other critical indicia of development: health, education, decent work, again, as a litmus test for the inclusivity of a new agenda. And finally, the way to do that is through disaggregated data that puts in place indicators about how migrants fare under the other pillars of the new development agenda. Those indicators will allow us to measure whether or not we have truly inclusive societies, whether or not we've ensured that minorities are included, or if we've left anybody behind. These are three simple and concrete ways in which migration's positive prospects for development can be realized to achieve the peaceful, harmonious, coherent societies that President Zapatero just spoke of. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. Our next speaker is Ambassador Halicevic, the permanent representative of Turkey to the United Nations. another one of our co-sponsors. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Matthew. His Excellency Mr. El Nasser, His Excellency Mr. Zapatero, Excellencies, distinguished guests. At the outset, I would like to thank High Representative His Excellency El Nasser, as well as the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations Secretariat and the Club de Madrid for organizing this important and timely event. I also thank His Excellency José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero for his strong and valuable remarks. His Excellency was instrumental in initiating and laying the foundations of the alliance. Later on, under the co-sponsorship of Turkey and Spain, the alliance has developed into a valuable platform in the field of cross-cultural and regional understanding. Among the issues the alliance is focused on, migration has a particular place as it directly relates to mobility of and interaction among the people with different cultures and backgrounds from all over the world. With the noble aim of promoting well-being of migrants and their inclusion into the societies within which they live in, the Alliance of Civilizations works on a number of projects to improve social cohesion and to build inclusive societies as touched upon by the High Representative. Today, the main agenda item of the UN is to craft the post-2015 development agenda. An intergovernmental process is currently underway to define the new set of goals and targets for the period beyond 2015. Migration-related issues should also be addressed properly in the deliberations for the post-2015 development agenda. In this context, I wouldn't overemphasize the importance of social inclusion of migrants in the host societies and of recognition of their rights. An inclusive society offering migrants recognition will definitely prove successful in attracting qualified migrants most needed in all developed and developing countries. An inclusive society will also succeed in unleashing the real potential of all migrants, as this will enable them to actively take part in the social, economic, and cultural life of the host societies. Migrants need to be granted all the means so they can express themselves and show their creativity in all walks of life. This will only contribute to the well-being of the host society as well as to the migrants themselves. For this to happen, there are some measures that can be taken. For example, public perception of migrants needs to be improved. Human rights and fundamental freedoms of all migrants, regardless of their status, need to be promoted and protected effectively. Moreover, all acts, manifestations, and expressions of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance against migrants and the stereotypes often applied to them, including on the basis of religion or belief, must be combated. States should apply and reinforce the existing laws when such things occur in their countries. Turkey will assume the chairmanship of the Global Forum on Migrants, Migration and Development as of July 2014 until the end of 2015. Interinstitutional consultations will take place soon in Turkey to define our priorities and work plan. But for the time being, I could say provisionally that mobility, ensuring human rights of migrants, and cooperation in combating illegal migration, combating racism, xenophobia, and discrimination might be areas of focus of our chairmanship. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador. We have a few minutes left in today's session, and as the High Representative is always reminding me, we need to be as interactive as possible. And so at this point, if anyone has any comments or questions that they'd like to pose, the floor is open. I'll recognize you to the best extent that I can see you. So, sir?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. En primer lugar, quiero...
First of all, I would like to welcome President Zapatero And now I will speak in English.
I have few remarks to say at the outset. I would like to thank His Excellency Mr. Nasser Abdelaziz Al Nasr for inviting us for that very important interactive discussion, and to thank the Secretariat and all the panelists for their contribution. I represent Egypt. I'm the deputy representative of Egypt. We follow with a lot of attention and interest the developments of the Alliance of Civilization. The topic of today is of great importance to us. We are a country of origin for migration, and we believe that social inclusion is truly a very important key to sustaining development gains and ensuring that the cohesion and solidarity of society are maintained. Any development agenda that does not strive to ensure that all members of society have equal access to opportunities and resources, and hence equal chances to benefit from the fruits of economic progress, is bound to be deficient. Migration is an issue of great importance, as I have said, that should feature in our discussions on the post-2015 development agenda as a cross-cutting enabler to the achievement of development. Migration is all about people, development, human rights, cooperation, which are issues of priority to all of us, and it offers endless opportunities to migrants and their families, as well as to countries of origin, transit, and destination. Migrants for us are vectors of social and economic progress and cultural diversity, as it was stressed several times from the side of the panelists. We believe that the post-2015 development agenda should strive to maximize the benefits of migration and deal with the challenges it brings about, especially given its changing patterns and emerging trends, such as the rise in north-south migration and the increasing instances of migrants caught in crisis. The issues of the rights of migrants for us in the southern Mediterranean and in Egypt is too crucial. Migrants do not relinquish their dignity or rights at the borders they cross. Their rights must be protected according to national legislation and relevant international instruments. There is an urgent need for all countries to ratify all relevant conventions, including the International Convention on the Protection of Rights of all migrant workers and members of their families. And we would like, in conclusion, to emphasize on the importance of exerting all efforts to combat human trafficking and smuggling of migrants, and to improve public perceptions of migrants and integrate them in countries of destination. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, sir. It's my understanding that the Permanent Representative of Qatar would like to make a comment. Your Highness, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I would like to begin with thanking His Excellency Mr. Nasser Abdelaziz Al Nasr, the High Representative of the United Nations for the Alliance of Civilization, and of course His Excellency Mr. Zapatero, the Chair of the Club de Madrid. Thank you very much for your presence today, and of course distinguished ambassadors of Spain and Turkey. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for organizing this event today. I think it strikes a very important subject and highlights the importance of promoting empowerment of people in achieving poverty eradication, social integration, and decent work for all. And of course, it contributes very positively to the upcoming process on the post-development agenda, and also the upcoming discussions on the social development that is coming up next week. The comments provided by the speakers today really enlightened us and deepened our knowledge and insight on the key areas that need to be tackled to advance social inclusion and eliminate discrimination against all persons. Despite all efforts, of course, made to eradicate poverty and promote empowerment of people, certain social groups in different parts of the world continue to face numerous obstacles and challenges, and to suffer disproportionately from poverty and exclusion. And I highlight some of these social groups, such as persons with disabilities, people living under foreign occupation, that are the most affected. With this in mind, to address those challenges, some questions should be remain needed to be posed. For example, how can we improve the strategies and policies to effectively and adequately address the crippling effects that poverty, inequality, and disparity have on the empowerment of people? What are the necessary measures to create an enabling environment for the effective participation of all members of society in decision making? Also, how can we ensure that governments consider giving priority attention to the empowerment of people in the elaboration of the post-2015 Global Development Agenda? And I would like to conclude again by thanking you for enlightening us on such an important subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Highness. We're approaching the end of our program today, and I have the distinct honor to turn over for concluding comments to my colleague and friend, Ambassador Tariq Al-Ansari, the Chef de Cabinet to the High Representative of the Alliance of Civilizations.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, we have just had a very productive, interactive discussion on the topic of migration, a phenomenon that started a long time ago, since human history started. However, it is now evolving, and it took various dimensions which made it interacting with many aspects of our modern life, and in particular our human sustainable development. And stability in the society is essential for the mission of the Alliance. During this meeting, we have seen from the video how migrants can integrate in their new societies and add beautiful concepts to the environment that they are living in, such as music. And music is also an important concept that the High Representative announced his intention to use as a tool for peace and development during his 5-year mandate. In his remarks, the High Representative also presented the case behind the decision to choose migration as a major pillar of the mission of the Alliance of Civilizations to achieve peace and stability among different nations that form our humanity. The High Representative also provided how migrants can contribute to the human sustainable development through multifaceted constructive practices. However, these migrants still face negative practices such as discrimination and xenophobia. There are responsibilities on the part of the responsible leaderships of the host countries, media, and also other responsibilities to integrate on the part of migrants. The High Representative also presented the various projects that we at the UNAOC are conducting to achieve constructive development parallel to constructive migration. His Excellency President Zapatero, thank you very much for believing in our mission as the Alliance of Civilizations. However, without your fruitful thought last decade, I would like to recognize that without it, this dream wouldn't have come true, along with also the support of Turkey. It wouldn't have become true, and we couldn't live it as we live it now. Thank you also for recognizing the role of Qatar, the hometown of the High Representative, and myself, and also my colleague, the PR of Qatar, who's here with us. You nailed it right, Your Excellency, when you said that diversity is not a problem. It is a good, fertile soil that we can exploit for the human advancement, for all of us with our various cultures and ethnicities. You also alluded to the importance of having a constructive, coordinated policy on migration with recognizing human rights as its cornerstone. It is also encouraging to hear from you, Your Excellency, the commitment of Club de Madrid to work hand in hand with the Alliance of Civilizations. And here I would like to recognize also the MOU that we have together. As you said, Mr. President Zapatero, yes, social inclusion is also a moral responsibility for real social inclusion, leading to an environment conducive to peace and development, where there is no place for xenophobia and discrimination. You also mentioned a very interesting term, which is the human vision for the future. Ms. Michelle Solomon, the permanent observer of IOM, International Organization on Migration, you mentioned very important observations on how to present the importance of migration on a long way to the development agenda of 2015 and beyond, on how to exploit migration to serve for good foundation for development around 2015, before and beyond. She also presented convincing data on the magnitude of migration as human phenomena. Numbers of migrants, their remittances, investment prospects depending on them within their different categories in the society. Ms. Solomon also alluded to the importance of protecting the rights of migrants and their contribution to development. We need to protect, as she said, we need to protect them from negative exploitation, and we need to support them against xenophobia, racism, discrimination, and even human trafficking. You also recalled the last year high-level debate of the General Assembly on migration that recognized the prospects and the benefits of migration to human advancement. His Excellency Ambassador Halit, the PR of Turkey to the United Nations, alluded to the activities that the Alliance is conducting in the area of migration and migrants' inclusion. He highlighted the question of migration and their new environment on two major and interesting tracks. First, the migration and their human rights and basic rights, and then their contribution that can be well investment by the host countries for right social inclusion and development. Then on the question and answer part, the representative of Egypt alluded to the issues of social inclusion, development agenda, cultural diversity, the human trafficking and other negative practices that the migrants are facing. The permanent representative, ambassador of Qatar, alluded to the importance of highlighting 2015 developmental agenda before and beyond, and the key areas related to the migration and the challenges facing migration, as we need to improve other related components, in particular also at the part of the intergovernmental level. This is the conclusion, Mr. President Al-Nasser, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tariq. This concludes the formal portion of our presentation in today's event. As you will have seen from the agenda, the media is invited to stay behind